So good afternoon, everyone. I am Maie St. John. I'm a head and neck cancer surgeon at UCLA, and the story of precision surgery technologies is started quite a bit of time ago. I was a young girl, and my grandfather was the village doctor in a small town. I had the privilege of spending my summers with my grandparents, and he would carry me on his shoulders as we saw patients all around the town. One afternoon, I remember seeing a woman who had a very large growth on her face. I asked my grandfather, "What is that growth?" And he said back to me, "That is cancer." Of course, at that time, I had no idea what cancer really was, but I did know from that moment that I wanted to spend my life helping to find a cure for this disease. After that time, I was very fortunate to have mentorship throughout my undergraduate years, my MD Ph.D., and now it is my privilege to serve as the chair of the Department of Head and Neck Surgery at UCLA, recently ranked #1 in the nation by US News and World Report. It's a team effort. It is not just me, but we're very proud. I then dedicated my life to working and helping patients with head and neck cancer. You see, head and neck cancer is the 6th most common cancer in the world, but it grows in areas that define us, on your face, in your tongue, in your throat. This is how you communicate, and I wanted to help these patients. About 8 years ago, a 32-year-old woman came into my office with her husband. They had gone all around the globe actually seeking opinions on how to treat her tongue cancer. They asked me 2 very important questions that day. Number 1, Dr. St. John, how much of my wife's tongue are you going to take? Because we do have small children at home. And number 2 was, Dr. St. John, when you come out of the operating room and tell me the surgery was successful, how will you in fact know that you have removed the entirety of the cancer? I knew the standard of care answers to give them, but this pushed me to think beyond what we were doing, beyond just using our fingertips to resect cancer. We know scientifically that if you don't cut around the cancer and get what is called negative margins, that you will leave cancer behind. And when we leave cancer behind, you see on this graph, it leads to a 90% mortality rate in these patients. But if I over-resect too much tongue, this will affect her quality of life and her speech. So what do we need? Shortly after I saw this patient, I thought to myself, what if there was a way for surgeons like myself, no matter what kind of cancer you're treating, head and neck, breast, or lung, to see cancer cells in the operating room? And that's exactly what we've built, dynamic optical contrast imaging. Dynamic optical contrast imaging is something that we have patented. We don't inject anything into patients. We use UV light, just like is in this room, and we can use it in the operating room. For me, it was very important to ensure that we were following the gold standard, histology, pathology. When we take a tumor out, the pathologist takes a look to make sure I've gotten it all. Histology, pathology. When we take a tumor out, the pathologist takes a look to make sure I've gotten it all. And now with DOSI, we can do that with 100% fiduciality in the operating room. We're fast in the order of seconds. It's label-free. I don't inject anything into the patients, and I can use it in the clinical field. We have used this now on over 200 patients at UCLA and are now expanding into breast and colon cancer. We have 100% sensitivity, almost 99% specificity, and it's important to note that intraoperative tumor imaging is not a part of the standard of care in the market. What we do now, we resect the tumor, we sample some tissue around it, and send it to pathology. Of course, this is prone to sampling error. Additionally, there's the cost of pathology fees, and the patient has to stay under anesthesia for at least an hour while the pathologists are checking the specimens. So let's take a look at the indicative market. Savings per patient, $10,400 we've calculated. Annual head and neck cancer surgeries in the United States. And if we extrapolate this to 1 million surgeries annually, globally, for cancer, over $10.4 billion. But truthfully, what is important to us is the lives that we save, because that is absolutely priceless in my dedication to these patients. We have been so fortunate to have over $10 million of funding from the NIH. We have been so fortunate to where we are today, and we are now asking for another $10 million to get enough ruggedized systems to move through the FDA process and bring this to patients. So I ask you to join me as we collaborate and create impact and shape the future for these patients. Thank you.